So last year, L-TWOO released their electronic eRX road bike group set. I've been riding it on this bike here behind me for about the last 6 months, and in that time I've racked up just over 2,000 kilometers on it. So in light of L-TWOO recently releasing version 2.0 of this group set, what's my experience been on the original? Well, to save you from watching the whole thing for the last few months, it has been utterly flawless actually, so let's get into it. My name, as always, is Luke, and welcome back to Tracefellow. Right, quick one today. As mentioned in my last video, this week I got my hands on version 2.0 of the eRX group set, the blue edition, as Joe over at China Cycling has dubbed it. Now, I'm not going to go into detail around that in this episode. If you want the lowdown and the sort of full differences between versions 1 and 2, then go and watch Joe's excellent unboxing video on the new group set, which I'll link in the top corner and also down below. But suffice to say, new color scheme, updated calipers, apparently better waterproofing, new buttons on the shifters, and it comes in a bit lighter overall as well, a 67 gram weight saving. So I'll be getting the blue edition installed onto a new bike build very soon. But what's my experience been with the original version 1.0 over the last 6 months? Well, it's actually been really good. But before we get into that, let me set the context and remind you quickly of 3 of the very early issues that early adopters such as myself faced with this thing. Number 1, my front derailleur just completely died on me. I won't go into too much detail here as I've already done a video on it, but essentially after 55 miles, I unplugged my front derailleur to do a bit of work on my bike, left it overnight, but when I plugged it back in the morning, it was just completely dead. As it happens, the front derailleur itself was totally fine. There was an issue with the rear derailleur, which houses the kind of brains of the operation, the main control board. So I replaced the rear derailleur and nothing else. Bingo, everything back to normal. I'm still not entirely confident what the issue was, but after taking some time to think about it and reading the comments as well, it appears to point towards an issue with that circuit board. I recall having accidentally clicked one of the shifters without the front derailleur actually connected. So it may have tried to fire some power through the cable to the front derailleur, but without anything attached, and possibly a faulty protection circuit on the actual board. Maybe it suffered with ESD, like electrostatic discharge, killing one of the capacitors and its ability to shift, something like that. Like I said, I'm not entirely sure, but that seems to be the most likely culprit. Either way, I kept everything else the same on the bike, only replacing that rear derailleur. I tried to kill it in all the same ways that I could think of, and loads of others as well, but it still works absolutely fine to this day. Maybe this has an updated circuit board design with a failsafe, I'm not sure, but yeah, all good now. The second issue, Grant over at GC Performance had his group set randomly die and come back to life for seemingly no reason. Turns out that was a battery connection issue that was solved very early on with a slight redesign. Basically, they replaced leaf springs with coil springs in the battery holder. Yeah, problem solved. And lastly, Joe from China Cycling, his group set died after he got caught in a downpour. Then he left it a day or two to dry out, just came back to life. So presumably a little bit of a waterproofing issue. I will say though, he had a very early release version. I don't think it even had any serial numbers on it at that point, so it would have been one of the first off the production line. Could have easily been a bit of a teething issue in the production process, something like that. But a bit more on waterproofing later. So those were the early issues with it. What's my experience been since then? Well, after replacing the rear derailleur, after, what was it, like 55 miles, I love it. I've been searching for like issues, really picking at it over the last few months, trying to kind of catch it out. What can I say? It's been faultless. Incredible shifting. The braking performance is absolutely spectacular, really top tier. The ergonomics are lovely, super comfortable on longer rides. It looks really nice, in my opinion, and importantly, the companion app is great. Really good translations, easy to navigate on both iOS and Android. L-TWOO have updated the firmware for the derailleurs several times since release, clearly ironing out a couple of issues, and right now this appears to be rock solid on the software front. Plus, they've updated the number of speeds. You could originally run 10, 11, or 12 speed cassettes. Now you can run anything from 7 to 13 speed cassettes at the back. The battery life is great. I did a 65-mile ride last week, about 4 hours in the saddle. The battery dropped 7%. So extrapolating, that's around 900 miles, 1,500 kilometers there or thereabouts on a single charge. Pretty impressive. And I haven't had to rebleed or touch the brakes really since installing them, so there's been no leaking of the hydraulic fluid or anything like that. And those that watched my last video will know I have been absolutely absolutely ragging the brakes recently, doing some downhill testing. So yeah, no problems on that front. The brakes are still really solid. Now, waterproofing. Assuming the problem I had with my original rear derailleur was a circuit board issue, which seems to be the most likely, I'm pretty confident I've had no issues with waterproofing. English winters are not renowned for being particularly dry, so I've been caught out several times in downpours with this thing, and I've also not shied away from hitting it with the hose when cleaning the bike. In fact, I've purposefully targeted the derailleurs with the high pressure setting on my hose on multiple occasions when cleaning this thing, just like really trying to catch it out and see if I can break it with water ingress. But every single time, it's come out absolutely fine. So to start with, I had some real issues trusting this thing. If I had somewhere to be on a ride, I would either not take this bike or make sure I had like an exit strategy in case something failed and I needed to get back home. But with a distinct lack of issues over months and months now, my trust in this thing has really grown. As it sits right now, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I'm pretty confident the major kinks have sort of all been worked out. If you do get this group set, I would say maybe ride it for a month or two before like trusting it on a really expensive cycle holiday you've booked or something like that. But I feel we're at a point now where this is a genuinely viable competitor to the likes of Di2 and eTap. Now, having said all that, I have actually had one other issue with the group set, but it was entirely my fault. So a number of months back, I was riding in the wet and had quite a bad crash actually. I skidded out and landed on the drive side of the bike and kind of skated over the tarmac. The rear derailleur took the brunt of the impact, and the hanger, the frame hanger, that snapped, so needed replacing. But other than some cosmetic damage to the aluminium on the rear derailleur, it came off scot-free actually. Functionally, it's still perfect. However, the right-hand shifter took some damage. It seemed okay at first, but when I was kind of clicking to downshift, sometimes rather than changing one gear, it would change 2 or 3. It's kind of difficult to show the issue, hopefully you can see it in this clip, but when clicking the button, sometimes it would stick in place, causing multiple shifts. So I did a bit of investigation, pulled the button cluster apart, which was really easy actually, found one of the little springs had become dislodged. So I put that back in place on top of the button, put everything back together, bingo, problem solved, shifts perfectly again. So yeah, it was a simple fix, and to be honest, the crash was pretty bad. I was off the bike for a week or two, but the group set survived fine. So if anything, it's pretty damn durable as well, I'll give it that. So yeah, there we go. I feel like L-TWOO have definitely turned a bit of a corner with this group set. I'm still slightly hesitant to give it like 100% recommendation, if you see what I mean, but I'm certainly very, very happy with how it's been performing over the last, what, like 1,200 miles. But if you have an eRX group set yourself, definitely leave me a comment about your experiences. 2,000 kilometers is quite a lot, I suppose, but I know there will be loads of you out there that have vastly exceeded that mileage with your group set. Plus, this is a sample size of one. Your comments and your experiences are invaluable to this conversation. So yeah, leave them down below and thank you in advance. Anyway, I'll be getting this new blue edition installed on a bike build coming very soon, so get subscribed for that. Unfortunately, I don't have a date of when this is going to be available for you lot to buy this version 2.0. It's being manufactured right now, so presumably pretty soon, but judging from past experience, L-TWOO tend to target domestic sales first, so the Chinese market, before releasing to the rest of the globe. So you could be waiting a few weeks, who knows really, but it will be soon. Anyway, subscribe if you like this kind of thing, hit the like button if you enjoyed this episode that I've made for you, and yeah, if you got any questions or comments, leave them below and I'll have a conversation with you. Right, it's 9:20. I've missed my daughter's bedtime for this, so hope you're happy. Right, anyway, enough guilt tripping. I'm gonna go and have some dinner. I think we got mascarpone pasta. So I'm gonna enjoy that, and you enjoy the rest of your day. Right, anyway, see you later, bye.
It's the bonus clip time.
So I was doing a bit of Googling for this episode, and I came across this phenomenal bit of footage. It's from L-TWOO, bit of a 3D render, some promotional materials for the eRX. But did you spot that cheetah? My face when the front derailleur stops working. Right. Anyway, enough of that. See you next time.